Hey everyone, welcome back to the Deep Dive. We knew you're busy, so we get right to it, cut through the noise. Today we're diving into Pi Network's .pi domain auction.
Yeah, it's been all over the Pi community lately.
It really has. Lots of questions, lots of excitement, and, well, frankly, lots of numbers being thrown around.
Definitely.
So we're going straight to the source, Pi Network's announcements and FAQs.
Right to the source.
We're going to unpack all of it. What are these .pi domains? Why should anyone care? And what does it mean for Pi, the network, the currency, the whole thing?
Yeah, all the big questions.
All right, so let's jump in. Pi domains. What are they? Really, what are we talking about here?
Okay, so in the simplest terms, a .pi domain is like a digital address within the Pi network, like a unique name.
Like a website address.
Yeah, exactly. Think of those familiar .com, .org, those kind of things.
Right, got it.
So instead of pointing to a website on, some server out there, these .pi domains are tied directly to the Pi blockchain. Okay, now that's where it gets a little more, well, a little more complex, right? I mean, what difference does that actually make being on the blockchain?
Big difference. Huge difference,
Right.
potentially. See, by being part of the blockchain, these .pi domains become like an integral part of Pi's vision for a Web3 social network.
Web3, the decentralized internet, right?
Exactly. So it's not just a name. It's kind of like owning a piece of that decentralized digital world.
Yeah.
Imagine online identities that are secure, transactions that are smoother, and, a whole ecosystem built around Pi, all happening within Pi's network.
So like online stores, communities, all kinds of things, all using .pi addresses.
Yeah, that's the idea. It's like, think of a normal domain name as a sign pointing to a shop you're renting.
Okay, I'm following.
But a .pi domain is more like owning the building itself, the deed recorded on this, immutable, transparent ledger, the blockchain.
Oh, I see. So it's about ownership, it's verifiable, it's secure. That's pretty cool.
Exactly. It's like a whole new level of control and potential.
All right, so the auction itself has been making waves. I mean, the numbers I've seen are pretty remarkable.
Oh, they're way beyond remarkable. They're pretty astounding. We're talking over 200,000 bids already in just a few days.
Wow, over 200,000. That's huge.
It is. And what even more impressive is the number of individual bidders, like real people getting involved.
Yeah, I saw that. Over 40,000 unique bidders. That's a lot of people putting their pie where their interest is.
It is. It really shows the level of engagement. And we're talking over 95,000 domains with active bids, with a total value, get this, over 2.9 million Pi.
That is mind-blowing. 2.9 million Pi.
And the highest bid so far, you ready for this?
Hit me.
30,000 Pi for a single domain.
30,000. People are clearly seeing value here. I mean, what does all this tell us about Pi as a functional currency?
It's a really strong signal. These aren't just numbers on a screen. This is Pi being used, circulating, having a real impact.
Right. It's not just sitting in wallets.
Exactly. It's being used to, acquire these domains, these digital assets. It suggests people are starting to see the real-world applications, the potential of Pi,
Sure.
and they're willing to put their Pi to work.
So it's not just a speculative asset anymore. It's becoming, well, functional.
Yeah, that's what it looks like, and that's a big deal.
So, okay, we get what .pi domains are. We see the excitement around the auction, but how will they work in practice? I mean, do we need some special Pi internet to use them?
That's a good question, and the answer is, well, not exactly. So initially, the main way you'll interact with .pi domains is through the Pi browser.
Okay, so Pi browser is like the native environment.
You got it. But they've also created a way to access these domains from regular browsers, like Chrome, Safari, those types.
Okay, how so?
Every .pi domain will also have a corresponding .pnet.com extension.
So like mybusiness.pi would also be mybusiness.pnet.com.
Exactly. You can access it from any regular browser. It's kind of like a bridge between the Pi ecosystem and the rest of the internet.
Clever. But I remember reading something about no guarantee of full adoption by those major browsers. What was that about?
Right. So the .pinet.com extension makes it accessible now, but for Chrome or Safari to directly recognize .pi,
Yeah.
without that extra bit, those companies would need to specifically support the Pi domain system.
And that's not a given.
Right.
is
No,
it?
it's not something Pi Network can control. So while they've created this workaround, true seamless integration across the entire internet, well, that's still, to be determined.
Got it. So it's usable now, but wider adoption is a future possibility. Now, about the auction itself, there's a lot of Pi being generated here. What happens to all that pie from the domain sales?
Good question, and Pi Network's been very clear about that. All the Pi they receive from the auction goes right back into the Pi ecosystem.
Okay, that's good to know. But specifically, how?
So it'll go towards supporting developer programs, helping to create all those applications and features for the network.
Makes sense.
And it'll also fund different Pi events, community building, educational things, growing the ecosystem as a whole.
So it's all about, well, reinvesting in the future of Pi.
Exactly. Building it out, making it stronger.
Now, what about the developers who are already building on Pi? Any special considerations for them in getting these .pi domains?
Absolutely. Pi app developers who've been playing by the rules, following the ecosystem listing guidelines and all that, and who've migrated to PiNet, the live Pi network, by May 28th, 2025, they get a unique opportunity.
Oh, like what?
They can secure their domain without bidding.
Oh, wow. That's a pretty sweet deal.
It is. Of course, there are specific details and conditions, and they've got a whole blog post dedicated to it, laying out all the requirements.
Makes sense. So encourage those developers to check that out. Okay, let's talk about the bidding process itself. Can people bid on multiple domains at the same time?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. You can put in bids for as many different domains as you want. So if you've got several ideas, for projects or just different names you like, go for it.
And what if someone places a bid and then, I don't know, changes their mind? Can they back out, modify their bid, anything like that?
Okay, so it depends. If you're a pioneer and you bid using your claimable balance, the Pi that hasn't fully moved to your mainnet wallet yet, then yes, you can withdraw your bid anytime before the auction ends.
Okay, so there's flexibility there.
But for folks who aren't pioneers yet and are bidding through standard payments, it's a bit different. They'd have to go through a refund process after the auction closes on June 28th, 2025.
So, two different systems there, important to keep in mind. Now, we've all seen those crazy auction moments where someone swoops in with the last-second bid and wins. Does the .pi domain auction have anything to prevent that?
They do. It's called the last-minute bid rule. So if someone places a new bid, or even if they change or remove their existing winning bid within the final 24 hours of the auction, that specific auction gets extended by another full 24 hours.
Oh, clever. So it gives others a chance to respond, prevents those last-minute shenanigans.
Exactly. But, and this is important, all the auction rules, including this one, are subject to change, at the company's discretion.
So things could evolve as needed. Okay, once someone wins a .pi domain, when do they actually own it?
Ownership is transferred right after the auction closes, on June 28th, 2025. So boom, you win, you're the owner, you have the rights to that digital name within Pi.
Straightforward enough, but are there any ongoing costs, like to keep the domain? I mean, we pay annual fees for regular .com domains, right?
Yeah, that's a really important point. So while the auction gives you initial ownership, Pi Network has said there will likely be yearly registration and maintenance fees for .pi domains.
Okay, so similar to the current domain system. Makes sense.
Yeah, they've even said those fees could be, on a similar scale to what we see with traditional domains. So it's not just a one-time cost.
Something to consider. So after the auction is over, how do winners actually get their domains? Where do they find them?
All the domains you've won will be listed on the domain auction page or within the Pi app itself.
Okay, easy enough.
And they'll be linked to the Pi wallet address you used for bidding. So everything's nicely tied together.
Nice and secure. Now, looking ahead, can you resell or transfer these .pi domains later on?
Yes. The idea is that .pi domains will work pretty much like, normal domains in that sense. You'll be able to resell them, transfer them to someone else, following standard practices.
So full ownership rights, essentially.
Essentially, yes. Of course, there might be some legal considerations, trademark stuff, copyright, just to prevent misuse.
Makes sense. And what if someone doesn't pay that yearly renewal fee? Do they lose the domain?
Yep, just like with regular web domains. If you don't renew, you lose it, and it becomes available for someone else to register.
So keeping it requires keeping up with those fees. We talked about rule changes earlier, specifically the last-minute bid rule. But just to be super clear, Pi Network can change the auction rules, right?
Yes, they've explicitly stated they have the right to change the rules anytime, and they might not even announce it beforehand.
So stay informed, things could shift.
Exactly. Keep an eye on the announcements. And they even gave an example of a potential change. Remember the thing about pioneers withdrawing bids?
Yeah, right now they can, but that could change.
Exactly. They might make bids binding, non-withdrawable, if they see any issues with the current system.
So to ensure fairness, prevent any manipulation.
That's the idea.
All right, so for our listeners who are now super intrigued and want to learn more, maybe see what domains are out there, where should they go?
Head straight to domains.pi or domains.pinet.com. But important note, use the Pi browser to access those sites.
Okay, Pi browser for the full experience. So let's wrap this up. We've covered a lot today. We've talked about what .pi domains are, why they matter, how they work, the excitement around the auction, and even what the future might hold.
Yeah, we've really gone deep.
It's clear these .pi domains are a significant development for Pi Network, a step towards that vision of a decentralized internet they're building.
It really makes you think, how might these blockchain domains change the whole landscape of online identity, digital ownership, the way we interact online?
Big questions. And with the connection to a digital currency, well, who knows what new economic models might emerge. It's exciting to think about.
Definitely.
Big thanks to everyone for joining us for this deep dive into .pi domains. Keep learning, keep exploring, and until next time, keep digging deeper.